Dubner Maggid in 7-8 minutes. He presented his case to the Rabbi Fishbain, the Almighty. He pleaded with him dramatically, forcefully, that he should permit him to enter Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. And he was denied. The Almighty told him with finality, he should the subject is closed, he shouldn't continue pleading with him. And then Moshe Rabbeinu Moses, he addresses the flock, the Klal Yisrael, B'ato Yisrael. And now, my children, sons of Israel, Shma l'chukim al mishpatim, heed, listen to the statutes, the commandments, the chukim mishpatim. The Torah is divided into two categories of mitzvahs. Mitzvahs that are chukim, decrees, statutes which we, with our rationale, with our own understanding, logic, we can't fathom, we cannot understand them. We observe them out of our love and loyalty to the Almighty. And mishpatim, those are laws that we do understand, we can fathom, like honoring parents, not to commit murder, not to steal, etc. Those fall into that category. But the Parshas continues, you shouldn't add to the mitzvah the way it's given, and you shouldn't diminish, you shouldn't detract. Exactly the way the mitzvah is given, that's how you must observe it. With detracting, we can understand if you don't do the mitzvah the way it was handed down, so you're not performing the mitzvah. So what could be wrong with doing more than the mitzvah asks for? Dubner Maggid presents a very, very clever parable, a mashal. He said a neighbor came knocking on his neighbor's door, and he said, he asked him, he says, could you loan me, be so kind, he says, I'm missing a spoon in the house, a lefel. Could you loan me a spoon? So he said, well, certainly, wouldn't help my neighbor. He runs quickly and he brings him the spoon. 2 days later, he comes back and he says to him, Mazel tov, the lefel, it got a lefele. The spoon had a baby, so here's 2 of them. He looked at the moment, he looked at him like I'm sugar, like he's crazy. Whoever heard of a spoon giving birth? But the Weltrucker is a Jewish expression, and they give nothing. If you give, you take. So he took the second spoon. A couple days later, he comes, he asks him, he says, he says, could you do me a favor? Could you borrow me a tepela, a pot? So he borrows him the pot. A couple days later, he brings him back too. He says, Mazel tov, he says, the tepela got that tepela. The pot gave birth to another pot. So there's 2 of them. He sees who he's dealing with, somebody that's not all there. But like we mentioned, if somebody gives you, you take it. A week later, he comes, he says to him, he says, I'm expecting a very important guest, and I want to make an impression on him. So he said, could you be so kind as to lend me a silver candelabra, a silver lichter? So here, he thought, now he'll really, for this mishigas, for this person not being all there, he'll really he'll really gain something. So he quickly runs as quick as he can, and he brings him the Leichter, gives him a very expensive candelabra, and he's sitting at home, and he's waiting for the payoff. He'll come to bring him 2 Leichters, based on his reputation. A day passes and a week passes, and he doesn't show up. But you don't want to look a gifted horse in the mouth, and he wants to be nice about it. So he doesn't want to really pick up and go to sign money. He doesn't want to go knocking on the door. So he figures he'll wait another day. But he waits another day and another day, and now he's getting already filled with anxiety. He's nervous. What happened to his candelabra? So he thinks a very diplomatic way of presenting it. So he knocks on the door. He says, how are you? He said, I was passing, happened to be in the neighborhood. I wanted to save you the trip of coming to return the candelabra to me. He says, so I figured I'll stop in already, I'll ask for the candelabra. He said, oh, you came to cut your candelabra? He said, yeah. He said, take a seat. Take a seat. He said, I don't want to be a bearer of bad tidings. He said, the candelabra was in childbirth, and it died. So here, he's outraged. He said, Mishugner. He said, whoever heard of a candelabra giving birth and dying in childbirth? He said, excuse me. He says, if a level can have a level, if a spoon can have another spoon, and a temple can have a temple, and a pot can have another pot, so a candelabra can die in childbirth. So that's the shot. If we'll give it over to human beings, to their judgment, and to how they want to conduct themselves with a mitzvah, how they'll prescribe how the mitzvah should be observed. So from adding, to come to detracting. From if you accept the level, so then you'll come that the mitzvah you won't do altogether. We have to do the mitzvahs exactly the way they were given. Also, the fact that we feel we want to add to the mitzvah indicates that we found something wrong with the way the Rebbeinu Shalom, the way he handed it down. That it's not whatever Rebbeinu Shalom hands us, he gives over. It's perfect. It doesn't need any perfection. It doesn't have to be altered, changed, modified, bettered. Nothing can be added to it. The mitzvah was given. That's how we have to observe it. Chanan ben Akashi, Omer. Ratz HaKadosh Baruch Hu Zag Yish Yisrael. Lefikach Elon Torah Mitzvah Shenamar. Ad Milchav Izman Shukra. Yad V'Torah Yad.